Commissioners, the second item is an application for a certificate of appropriateness located within the Soho Cast Iron Historic District. It's 29 Greene Street, Block 229, Lot 30, docket number 16-5900. A store building designed by J. Webb & Son and built in 1877-78. Application is to amend certificate of appropriateness 150849 to install a fiberglass cornice and facade elements. And this was presented and approved by the Commission on August 13th of 2013.
Preservation staff. This application is for 29 Greene Street. A little over a year ago, the applicant came forward to a public hearing and received a certificate of appropriateness. At that time, the building was a two-story cast iron building. It had lost its upper floors in a fire prior to designation. And the commission voted to approve reconstructing the top 3 floors with a metal cladding and a one-story penthouse addition setback from the facade. Today, the applicant is back to ask permission to reconstruct the top 3 floors in a fiberglass instead of the approved metal. And the project architect is here, as well as the contractor, to further explain and answer any questions.
Thank you, Gabriella. We'll reopen the hearing.
She's going to state your name. Thanks. And this is forward, right? Yeah, exactly, and that's the red light if you want to point.
Hello, my name is Angela Dirks. I'm the project architect for 29 Greene Street, and with me here is Larry Wente, who is the partner in charge and the architect of record for this building. To the left, we see the elevation of the existing facade, cast iron facade, which was reduced to 2 stories by a fire in the 1960s. On the right side, you see the proposed new elevation with the existing lower 2 floors extant, and the proposal is to clean it, scrape it, and replace the missing rosettes with cast iron rosettes, and add new plinth blocks in cast iron, which would be taller in order to bridge the gap between the lowering of the level, the entry level, due to ADA. The color will be off-white, and all of this had been previously reviewed and approved. The upper 3 floors emulate the components of the lower entirely without any simplification. Here we see a photograph of the existing building with its capitals, the rounded spandrel, the water tables. As you can see, it's in need of some refurbishment, and it will get that. This is a 3D rendering of the proposed building in the context of Greene Street. And you can see the upper 3 levels here extending from the lower. All levels will be painted with the same paint, including the caulking from the ground up to the cornice to give a unified appearance. The cornice, the proposed cornice is here. It emulates some of the cornices on Greene Street. We did not have any precise records at all, frankly, of what that cornice looked like. So we are taking our cues from the context, as you can see here. Now today we've come to you to ask for a change from the last time we were here, when we requested to build the upper new facade out of metal. I'd like to mention that cast iron has 2 intrinsic features: casting and metal. Casting is a way of making shapes and can be used by many malleable materials. And here we see sand casting, which is how iron was originally cast. And here we see molds. These are molds for fiberglass. And today we are going to be talking about utilizing fiberglass as a good substitute for cast iron. I'm going to give you an example here in the building itself. to demonstrate why a casting method is most appropriate for us for this building. And it is the method that would best emulate cast iron. Once painted, it will look like cast iron. This is a spandrel, which has a radiused shoulder here, 90 degrees, which is also beveled, chamfered. It is a compound curve. It is cast originally as a monolithic element with no visible seams. If we attempted to fabricate this out of sheet or plate metal, it would have many seams, which would be visible unsightly. It would be subject to rusting. In this elevation, the gold shading shows the elements that we are proposing to be fabricated out of fiberglass. Fiberglass is a very strong, durable, long-lasting material that is easy to maintain. It is fireproof due to the fewer seams required to fabricate it compared to a sheet or plate metal. It is more waterproof. It is not subject to corrosion as galvanized materials can be, and it is not subject to deterioration from water.
Michael, you have a question? Yes.
Can we go back one slide?
Sure.
Thank you. On the image on the bottom right,
Yes.
where if any, would there be seams in the proposed fiberglass arrangement that you're proposing?
Okay, I'll show you that in this elevation here. It's this image is kind of fuzzy, so unfortunately you can't see it, but I'm going to show you. And also, it's the small print. It will be here on top of the round columns going up through the spandrel and through the water table. And I apologize that that is
I
not.
can see it here.
Okay.
So how wide would that joint be and how would it be finished?
Okay, so we have our technical expert, our contractors who are going to come in here, and we have details for that coming up a little later. So if we can circle back around to that. I know it's very important. As we know, cast iron components emulate classical elements. Cast iron parts were catalog items, and they were relatively inexpensive fireproof cladding. This is a section through the building that shows, again, where the fiberglass elements would be installed. Now here is your and I'm going to turn it over to Daniel Wax now, who is the president of Urban DC. They have restored scores and scores of historic buildings throughout New York and historic sites. And so in conclusion, I'd like to say that we believe that fiberglass is the best material to use as a substitute for cast iron. Cast iron, as you know, is a very heavy material. It would bring to bear a great amount of weight on our facade, which is already situated on a former marshland and very unsupportive soil. The weight of cast iron, in addition to the difficulty of fabricating it, is cost prohibitive to our client. However, we also have to recognize that utilizing plate metal and sheet metal, as we had previously been approved to do, has many liabilities, such as I mentioned before, rusting, the problem of the breaking of the galvanization due to field cuts and soldering, as well as drilling. Sheet metal is always subject to denting as well. Fiberglass is a very strong and robust material. It is stiff, and we feel that it would be the best substitute to emulate also the plasticity of molten iron that can create these shapes, the tapering of columns, the details of the capitals, and so forth. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Larry.
Michael has a question.
You have referred several times to galvanization. It was my understanding that cast iron was approved for, not galvanized sheet metal. Is that correct?
Gabriella, can you?
No,
Yes.
sorry, I was the staff person that took it forward in 2014, and at that time, the only cast iron elements that were approved were at the bottom 2 floors, the existing floors, and at the reconstructed 3 floors, it was metal, but not cast metal.
It's gonna be sheet metal?
And at the time, the architect thought that that was the best option, and now that they've started all their drawings, and it's a year later, that's why they've come back, because they feel that it wouldn't be the best as-built solution.
Excuse me, so, but the cost factor that you mentioned, is that the cost, you're saying that it's cost prohibitive to do the cast iron?
Cast iron.
You weren't saying it was cost prohibitive to do the metal?
No,
So,
Just saying that you don't think that that works,
yes.
the metal?
So where are you asking not to use cast iron? If sheet metal was what was approved before, you're asking now not to use cast iron on the ground?
No,
levels
we
too?
intend to use cast iron on the first 2 levels as was approved and as was requested on the plinth blocks and replacing the rosettes. Those will be cast iron, definitely. What we're asking is for that part of the new facade that had previously been approved